Welcome into the Diamond Vols Podcast on GoVols247.com. I am Ben McKee, and I am joined by Will Heflin, former Tennessee baseball pitcher. Will Heflin, soon to be father. Will Heflin, that due date is right around the corner. The next time we record a podcast, it'll be birth month for the Heflins. Thinking about them and wishing the best as they turn the calendar here on a Wednesday morning. Look at us, Will. We are recording a preview podcast on a Wednesday morning. We're maturing. We're becoming experienced at this thing, I think.
Or we're making up for being late, having Saturday and Sunday to record the recap, but it's neither here nor there. Look at us.
Look at us. It's also like, hey, when are you free to record? That my text to you was literally, when can you record, today or tomorrow? And you said either day, I think is what you said. And I said, what time? Or you said either day. I said, which day works better for you to record during the day? And it worked out this Wednesday morning. So that's pretty much our podcast scheduling right there. Of when things get recorded is me texting Will, because Will has a job in the real world. Unlike myself, I pretend to have a job. So it's me texting Will and being like, hey, when can you record?
Yeah, I'd like you to grab the reins a little bit there and just be like, hey, can you record on this day at this time? But I appreciate your flexibility. As always.
I'm just giving you plenty of options to pick from, is the way that I look at it. You know who you sounded like right there? I'm sorry to throw you under the bus, but you know who you sounded like right there?
This is probably going to be bad, but who?
My wife.
Yeah.
When she says, what do you want for dinner? And I say, I do not care. And in my mind, by me saying I do not care is helping her out in a major way. Because when I say I do not care, I literally mean you can fix whatever you want and I will eat it. To me, that is the simplest, best answer in the book.
Yeah.
But in her mind, it's not the best answer. In her mind, I have to give her the very specific thing that I want to eat, which would technically be a more difficult answer, because I could be very difficult with my answer in that regard and say, I want something that we don't have in the house right now. Yeah. That's what you sounded like right there.
You actually played yourself, because I am you in this scenario, because you are your wife saying, what do you want for dinner? When do you want to record? And I'm you. I don't care. You tell me. And I think you just backfired. You pointed the finger, and the old saying is there's 3 pointing right back at you. Because hey, I feel that on the eating. That's Erica will laugh if she knew we were talking about this right now, which I guess she will know. But I will say one of the best parts about pregnancy has been she's been much more decisive on what she wants to eat. No like weird cravings, but she'll tell me like, this is what I want. And before that was like, there was no way.
Yeah. That I went through the same thing.
All the dudes who are married or living with their significant other feel us on this one.
Yes, everybody is nodding in agreement right now. It was very easy to pick up dinner or do dinner when my wife was pregnant. The first time it was, I wanted burger. She craved burgers the entire time, which was clutch.
Great craving.
Yes. I was like, clutch. I love burgers too. That's why I look the way that I do. But I will say, we worked out our timing of the podcast much better than me and my wife work out what we're going to eat, because it was an open book. You said, hey, I can record it this time. I said, cool, shoot me a text when you're free. And now look at us. Now we're recording. Whereas if you were my wife, we would still be going back and forth about what we're going to eat. She'd be huffing and puffing in the kitchen because I didn't tell her exactly what I wanted to eat. So look at us.
You better quit while you're ahead. You're going to end up in the doghouse.
I know. I do need to quit while I'm ahead. Tennessee baseball will also look to remain ahead and build off of its momentum when it travels to Kentucky this weekend, a tricky location for the Vols the last couple of years, or during the Tony Vitello and Josh Elander era. There have been quite the battles up there in Lexington between Tennessee and Kentucky on the Baseball Diamond. We will dive into that series and preview it before we get out of here in the second segment. But first, we need to go back over Tennessee's 13-0 run rule win over West Georgia on Tuesday evening at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Tennessee wins 13-0 in 7 innings. Very ho-hum. West Georgia is a bad baseball team, and I don't know how much money you would have to pay me to watch a game between West Georgia and Oakland. I also don't know who would win the matchup between those two teams that Tennessee has played this season, but nonetheless, Tennessee remains undefeated in midweek games this season. They are now 12-0 with 2 left to play. Hard to imagine that there are only 2 midweek games left. Only 5 games left at Lindsey Nelson Stadium this year, Will, assuming Tennessee does not host a regional, which right now does not seem likely. So hard to believe that the season is coming to an end. But, hey, as we just talked about, the calendar is flipping over to May. But just a good overall night for Tennessee, not playing with its food, not being too comfortable after their series win over Alabama, a weird weekend off. They scored 13 runs on 14 hits. They hit 5 home runs. The pitching staff, they only give up 4 hits, did not walk a batter, did not hit a batter, no free 90s, as Josh Helander likes to say. And the defense did not commit an error. I don't recall a base running mistake. It was a very clean outing, very much what you expect from this program in a midweek game.
Yeah, hard to make mistakes on the base paths when you're jogging around them. 5 home runs is good. Nate Eisfelder, best bat flip of the year. My favorite bat flip that there is, because, and you know, I'm a little, I don't know, stuck in my ways about this, but you hammer a baseball to the second deck of the porch. You immediately put your head down, take 2 steps, and then flip it and never even watch the ball. Like, that's, hey, I knew I got it. I've hit plenty of these before. Let me do my little bat flip and get on with it. Like, that is bad A, man. So big fan of Eisfelder's swing, A, and then B, you know, the subtle but very, very loud pimp job. Subtle is loud when it comes to pimp jobs.
Yes.
Kids, if you're listening, or parents, if you have a kid who's working on his bat flips, Nate Eisfelder showing you how it's done. That's pretty good right there. Kind of odd, Ben, that Tennessee, I mean, maybe they will lose one of the last 2. But at this point, like, it's pretty impressive to be undefeated in midweek games. And I know I'm notorious for saying midweek games don't matter, but it's like an unwritten rule for an SEC team. You have to lose at least one. And so, you know, if nothing else, Tennessee are the Tuesday champs this year for handling business. No, I'm just playing. Did cross 30 wins last night, which is good. And then, you know, I don't want to disrespect West Georgia. They just moved up from Division II. It was a really good program at that level. I think they'll be good in due time at this level because of the state they're in and just the program that they have. They're not used to losing. Obviously, when you're going from Division II to Division I, you're going to take your lumps. The only team I can think of that didn't really do that was Grand Canyon. When they moved up, they just kept being good, but they're kind of the outlier. And I do think they're better than Oakland.
That's an important distinction. I'll let you.
That's my biggest take of the pod today is, like, give me West Georgia over Oakland. Oakland was their cheeks. Sorry. West Georgia really not that bad. You know, it's just one of those seasons where they've kind of been kicked while they're down, and it is what it is. But
I'll let you have the final word on West Georgia, Oakland. I have no thoughts.
You taking Oakland? We can do a little side bet there. I know you're not a gambling man, but that'd be a fun one to bet on.
It would be. I just have 0 opinions on West Georgia or Oakland, so I'm going to let your opinion rule all.
Hey, and that is gambling advice, by the way. So because I can say that now. So
Maybe since they are not going to make the NCAA tournament, maybe we can have a neutral site game in the state of
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah, the Crown NCAA baseball tournament or the NIT.
This would be less than the NIT.
250 NIL dollars on the line. Not
Yeah,
K, 250.
yeah. You each get $5 for winning. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the Nate Eisfelder pimp job. Aaron Judge, every time he hits a home run, he puts his head down and he runs around the bases, and I think it's the most BA thing you can do.
It's just
And I'm not saying that because Aaron Judge is my guy. I'm obviously a huge Aaron Judge fan. Like, I really think even like the pitchers who shove on the mound and they walk off the mound like nothing has happened, like that's the ultimate boss move, moving like a boss, Rick Ross style. When and I don't have, and I say this, I don't have anything against bat flips whatsoever. There are some that are obviously over the top. I have a problem with 12-year-olds in travel ball slamming the bat down and acting like they just walked off the World Series. Like, there is a limit, but generally
context
speaking,
too, you know?
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but like Eisfelder knows you're up 11 runs in a midweek game. So like that, that's different than you just tied the game late in an SEC game.
Yep.
There's also a difference, especially for guys like Judge, you're going to hit 50 plus every year. You don't need to stand there and watch all of them. Like if you get one 450, then you exuberate that one a little bit more. But Eisfelder hammered it, but it wasn't like the one the kid from Alabama hit on Thursday.
Hines,
yeah. Those you watch. The one Eisfelder hit, clearly going to be a home run, absolutely hammered. More of a laser, though. Get on with your business. I just like that distinction, if you will. But like Gilbert's walk-off grand slam, lose your mind, black out. There's a difference, for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
The problem is that viral clip of the 12-year-old or however old he was, that was not a walk-off grand slam against Wright State when he acted like Drew Gilbert against Wright State. So I totally agree with you. I think it's an ultimate boss move, even if it's a tight game. If it's 1-0 against Kentucky this weekend in the bottom of the 7th, and Nate Eisfelder for some reason hits a pinch hit solo home run that ties the game, and like he acts like he's been there before, I think that's a big boss move as well.
You can go either way in that one, but
yeah, I would not fault him at all for showing emotions. But I'm with you there. You know who else hit a couple of bombs yesterday, equivalent from Hines from Alabama, was Reese Chapman and Levi Clark. They both got all of a home run in the first inning of Tuesday's game. Reese Chapman hit a 3-run home run, 408 feet over the Tennessee bullpen. And then Levi Clark goes back-to-back with Reese and one-ups Reese in the process, hits a 424-foot home run over the porches. That is not playing with your food. That is devouring your food.
Yeah. Levi Clark's I don't want to say development, but just settling in and being more who he is the past 3 weeks or so. I mean, he's pretty much good for a home run or two a week right now. So hopefully he didn't waste them. I'd take another one from Levi this weekend. But he had at least one against Bama, didn't he? So in the last 7, he's hit multiple. Last 7 days. But yeah, I mean, look, this is where I'll go back to saying midweeks don't matter, but I'll take all the home runs and feel goods especially for the stats. Like, you try to block those out, but when you're like Levi and you started so slow, you feel like you've just been staring at that crappy number the whole year. So it's like I'm not going to blame him for getting his in a few midweeks and trying to get that back closer to the norm, because his SEC numbers look better than what you see on the scoreboard because of his non-conference batting average the first month of the season. So for him, super good. And for Reese, he's been so consistent all year. It's been great. Like, he's kind of held the thing together at times when they really needed it. So, and he's still Reese, right? He's going to strike out a little bit. He's going to be a little streaky. But overall, he's been much more consistent than he had been prior to this season in his career. I mean, it's easy to think back to last season where he just went ice cold at the worst possible time. But the year before that, he had a huge home run in Omaha against North Carolina, left on left. So, you know, he's done some really nice things in the orange jersey, but I still love him in the 2-hole. And I just think he's been really good. And he's been the one, really, outside of Grimlinger, he's been the other one who's kind of most willing to square that thing up left center and use the whole field. So that's oddly or shockingly why he's probably been more successful. So it kind of helps him stay on that changeup a little bit too, where he used to swing through it a lot. He's been able to foul off much tougher pitches this year and stay in some counts to get a few mistakes, which those add up, man. Like, if you think about it, if you can foul off, let's say, 10 extra pitches over the course of the season, and you turn, instead of 10 strikeouts, these are 10 foul balls with 2 strikes. Okay. That, let's say, otherwise you would have swung through and been out. And then we'll say, you know, from there, 3 of them you get a hit. Like, an extra 3 hits out of 10 is 300 for that 10. Like, it makes a huge difference when you start thinking about it. And 10 pitches over the course of Reese's entire season, 56 games, 3 to 5 at-bats a game. Like, you're talking 150 to 200 at-bats. 10 pitches is not a huge ask to be like, hey, find a way to stay in a count 10 extra times, you know? So I'm sure he's done it more than that. That's getting really granular, but that's kind of the thought process I have. And you're like, okay, what's the real difference between a 260 hitter who does well in non-conference and he's more like a 220 hitter in conference versus, okay, your total season numbers are close to 300 and you're over 250 in conference? Well, it's 20 to 25 at-bats where you stayed in the count longer than you may have prior, and you got a handful of extra hits to show for it.
Or walks, which I feel like Reese has done a good job of.
Don't hurt your average.
Walks do not hurt your average. In fact, they help your OBP in the process. And you'll enjoy hearing that Reese believes he is better prepared this season to end the season on a high note. He spoke to the media after last night's game and brought up on his own, unsolicited, that he allowed the outside noise to affect him at the end of last season. And not only did it send him into a bit of a spiral there when he ended the season on a cold streak, it forced him to stay in that slump as well, because he felt like he was paying too much attention to the outside noise. And he said right now he's really focused on living in the moment. He brought up he's only got 5 guaranteed home games left at Lindsey Nelson. Like, it's going to fly by. So staying in the moment, not paying attention to outside noise. And he brought up on his own that he feels like he's in a much better place this year than he was last year to end the season on a high note individually, which, if he ends the season on a high note individually, that obviously helps the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to be playing your best in another 3-4 weeks. You don't want to be fighting demons. You know what I mean? So, a little foreshadowing into Hoover. It's like, okay, we don't know what Tennessee is going to need out of Hoover, but let's assume they're either in the tournament or going to Hoover trying to backdoor their way into a host. If we're talking about players specifically who need a good Hoover, I think Reese is one of them, just because of that. So you're absolutely right.
Quietly, Mr. Heflin, quietly, there's a lot of talk about Blaine Brown. There's a lot of talk about Levi Clark, Trent Grenlinger. He's receiving a lot of headlines. Manny Marin hit the ball well over the weekend. We just spent a lot of time talking about Reese Chapman. quietly, Henry Ford is starting to look like Henry Ford. He is starting to come out of the slump that he was in for a month and a half because he had walking pneumonia for a month and a half, lost 20 pounds because of that. And he had a good weekend against Alabama, and he follows it up with a towering 3-run home run against West Georgia to the deepest part of the ballpark on Tuesday night. And I know it's a midweek game. It's West Georgia, but still good to see Henry having good swings. And I feel like he's hit into some bad luck at times this year with barreling some baseballs and hitting line drives right at guys. But the same thing we say about Blaine Brown and Levi Clark and others. Like if Tennessee's going to reach its potential, Henry Ford has to be right in the middle of it, if not leading the charge. And so I think these last couple of games, seeing Henry break out of that slump that he was in is a great sign for Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't know how quiet Henry was over the weekend. I mean, it was pretty loud, but
he was loud, but nobody's talking about him first and foremost.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things.
Hitter.
Like you fall victim to your expectations almost. It's like, I don't know. I remember at times early on in 24, we weren't talking about SEMO very much. And then it was like, okay, he's got 30 homers. Maybe we'll consider him for Golden Spikes, but nah, that was ridiculous. But anyways, for Ford, it's just, I mean, health, right? He got his strength back. Seems like, I'm sure he's put on some weight back. I'm sure he has more energy. Like, that stuff makes all the difference in the world when you're talking about the difference between a millimeter of timing or a millisecond of timing between a squared up baseball and not a squared up baseball. You got to be at your best self to perform your best. The flu game is certainly the easy thing to draw from, and like you can do that for a weekend, but when you're feeling that way for multiple weeks, it just wears you down. You know what I mean? So like it's almost impossible to fight through it for that long. So hopefully he's feeling how he looks, because he looks more like Henry Ford.
He's just not. Yes, his performance was loud this weekend. He's just not one of the first talking points with Tennessee baseball right now. It was Tegan Coons and Trent Grenlinger and Blaine Brown and a couple of other guys, and rightfully so. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that would. I guess my point was that was not discussed enough, in my opinion. That Tennessee's 3-hole hitter is finally looking like Tennessee's 3-hole hitter again, and I think that's a significant development, as significant of a development as Blaine and some of those other guys as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was also a significant development that Cameron Appenzeller started on Tuesday night against West Georgia. What does that mean for the weekend at Kentucky? We'll discuss that after this quick timeout. Welcome back into the Diamond Vols Podcast on GoVols247.com. I am Ben McKee, and I'm joined by former Tennessee baseball pitcher Will Heflin on this Wednesday, April 29th edition of the podcast. It's always great when people are in our mentions, Will, asking, hey, when y'all recording another podcast? When y'all dropping another podcast? When's the next podcast coming out? I love seeing those tweets. I really do, because that means people care about the podcast, which is a great thing, obviously. And it is that time of year where interest in Tennessee baseball is as high as it gets year round. So if you are one of those people who looks forward to our podcast, looks forward to hearing Will talk about baseball, and puts up with me in the process, wherever you subscribe to your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, elsewhere, go in, make sure that you're subscribed to the GoVols 24/7 YouTube page. You go subscribe to the YouTube page. In the process, we post the video version of the podcast as well. But if you want the audio only versions, wherever you listen to your podcast, go in, make sure you're subscribed to our channel on that feed. And then I know I'm an Apple Podcast guy. Go up to that bell if you're also an Apple Podcast person and click that. And that way you get notified every time we drop a podcast. And then you don't have to ask. I'm fine with you asking. I'm not dissuading you not to ask. Please continue to ask. But that can also serve as a, hey, a new Diamond Vols podcast just dropped. And then we have other podcasts as well. Basketball podcast, when transfers commit, football recruits, football news, basketball news, all sorts of podcasts. So if you are interested, make sure you've got your noties turned on. That way you know when a fresh Diamond Vols podcast drops. Cameron Appenzeller starts last night against West Georgia, throws 14 pitches, 13 were strikes. I'd say that's a pretty efficient outing when 13 of your 14 pitches are for strikes. He did allow a 2-out single, but bounced back with a second strikeout in the inning to pitch a scoreless inning in his only inning of work, and looked like himself, which he should against West Georgia. I get it. Josh Elander said post-game that he liked that the breaking point or the breaking ball, I forget the exact word that he used, but he essentially said the breaking ball was more sharp. He felt like it had more depth to it. That's what Josh Elander said, that Appenzeller's breaking ball, the slider, had more depth to it last night than it had in the last couple of outings, which is potentially a good sign for Appenzeller heading into the weekend.
Yeah, he looked like Cam. So I think that can be a good bullpen replacement outing, just because there is no substitution for live action. And I think he just wanted to, I don't know if he asked to pitch in the midweek or if they just said, hey, think it'd be a good idea for you to get some more live action just to get that out of your that taste out of your mouth. I remember my last year, it ended up being a horrible game for Tennessee, but I had recently been moved to the starting rotation because Chad Dallas had the 1 week against Georgia State where he missed because of the lat soreness. So I started in his place on Friday night. But I wasn't super involved the first series, and I went deep into that game. And so I think the thought process for Vitello was like kind of playing catch up a little bit still, but also it was a road midweek game. So I don't really know. I threw 100 pitches on Friday night and assumed that I would start one of the games the next weekend. So I didn't think I was going on the trip. Turns out I'm going. Didn't prepare to pitch in the game. Turns out I'm starting. He asked me when we get there, he's like, hey, can you just throw your bullpen in the game? You know, throw it first inning. I was like, sure, coach. So I forget whose cleats I borrowed, but I didn't have cleats, Ben. So anyways, if you remember that game, Chad gets thrown out in the first inning. I'm talking, I got 2 outs, like 1 runner on. I gave up a single or something. 3-2 count. Middle guy takes it. Ball. Just couldn't have been more middle. And I'll tell you, when I think, okay, it's off, yada, yada. Like there were a couple outings that year, like Missouri, I had a bad outing where I thought I got squeezed a little bit, but they were all borderline. Like I can live with that. This one was, I'm telling you, it was right down the chute, Ben. Ball. So then the next guy naturally gets base hit, and Frank and Tony are barking. Well, Chad has to be the fall guy, right? Because you don't want to lose one of those guys, potentially be suspended for the Friday game, yada, yada. Well, anyways.
Chad Zucker.
I only ended up giving up the 1 run, I believe. But that was my bullpen in somebody else's cleats. And we ended up getting hammered. It was like 11-1 final at Charlotte. And so that one did not go the way that I think they drew it up. But that line of thinking was probably similar in that you're going to get more out of it throwing a bullpen live in the game. So there's a fun little story, or not fun story, and a way too long-winded way of saying I think it was good for Cam Appenzeller to get out there for a different reason, but I draw the connection whether that's right or wrong.
I can certainly see that connection, and Cam did go to Josh Elander. Josh Elander said this post-game that Cam went to Josh and went to him with the idea of, hey, can I start? Can I work on the things that I've identified that I need to work on, those adjustments? Can I see if I can make those adjustments in the game by starting. So that was Cam Appenzeller's idea, according to Josh Elander post game. And it's West Georgia, so we'll see if that ends up translating to SEC play. But he certainly looked good and better than he has the last couple of outings against Ole Miss and Alabama. That has not exactly gone according to plan. And Tennessee obviously needs Cam Appenzeller in a major way if it is going to be successful. So we'll see how that translates to this weekend against Kentucky. What does it mean for his role this weekend? I don't know that we'll see his role change all that much. Josh Elander did admit post-game that he anticipates making a change to the rotation, but he wasn't exactly sure which change he will make. I think it's more likely they shift the order around than they do replace somebody. So we'll see if Appenzeller can carry over what he's been working on into this weekend, because Tennessee, again, will certainly need him in that regard. And they will also need the other side to this coin, is that they need Landon Mack to be Landon Mack as well. I believe they've identified some things that he has been struggling with on tape, and they've been working on those things, working on tipping pitches and things of that nature, some mechanical things as well. But there's no doubt that Appy and Landon need to look like Appy and Landon this weekend, even against a struggling Kentucky team.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other thing that came to my mind about Cam is, like, he's been so strict on almost like a starter schedule, but not a starter because you don't know when you're going to pitch. And they've used him for length, but the last few have been a little bit short. So maybe it was just being out there more, I think, is probably a big thing. One thing I will say about, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
you're wrong.
The amount of multi-appearance weekends for anybody on the staff has been very low for this team. They have been extremely conservative in terms of turnaround times, overall pitch count. Like, they let the starters go. If they're rolling, like we've seen Blanco get over 100. But as far as the bullpen, like, you're to that point in the year where you're going to need Appenzeller ready on one-day rest. Like, you're going to need Arvidsson locked and loaded for Friday, Sunday, or Appy Friday, Sunday, however that game goes, and whoever you turn to. Rudy should be at the point where he can give you 3 outs all 3 games. And they just haven't done that, which I love. Like, they've protected these guys. But it's go time now. Like, so that could be the other advantage of getting Cam an inning of game work on a Tuesday, is, like, kind of building for, hey, you're probably going to be out there multiple times in a week. When you start to think about, okay, we might be, you might play multiple in Hoover. You might play a Monday game in a regional. Like, you make it to Omaha, you're certainly going to throw. I know you have a day in between out there, but, like, shoot, you better, if Tennessee makes it to Omaha, Appenzeller and Arvidsson better be ready to give you 100 pitches in a 3-day span. Like, that's over 2 separate outings. So that's kind of just where we're at in the season. And you love that. You want to do that. And they're certainly in shape to do that. But now would be the time to start working towards that with some of the game reps and decision-making. And I think that'll help Elander and co. Is, like, you can be a little bit more aggressive on Friday if you're able to be in the game, knowing that you can turn them around and have them available for Sunday. Obviously, you don't want to throw them 75 pitches, because then they're done probably for the weekend. But it's to that point. So, my thought with Mac, if you're tipping pitches, that would certainly make sense as to why he's not able to get any swing and miss against Alabama. As to why guys looked like they were born and ready for the heater, being Ole Miss the week before. It's like, this dude's throwing 96. He's got like 5 different pitches, and he ain't fooling anybody. Like, so if he was tipping pitches, hopefully they get that figured out in a hurry. But you're right. They do need him to be good, but we'll see what they do.
I do think at minimum you see Tegan Coons on Friday in game 1, and that is something that I am a big fan of after how Tegan pitched against Alabama. You and I talked on a recap pod earlier this week, like which is that age-old question in college baseball, which is more important, the game 1 starter or the game 2 starter, like setting the tone for the weekend or saving the weekend, giving your team the series win. After Tegan set the tone for that doubleheader, I want Tegan setting the tone for the weekend. So I do think there's a good chance you see Tegan on Friday. And if that is indeed how they roll, I absolutely love that move.
Yeah, I do too. I take back what I said on the recap. Game 2 is definitely more important. Game 2 is the most important. Not because I threw game 2, but just because it is. Now,
I mean, it determines the weekend.
Oddly enough,
it's not that much more important than setting the tone, though. Like I think we both agree, game 2 is more important, but you still got to set the tone.
Yeah, if game 2 were, I mean, you wouldn't see Cade Anderson, Liam Doyle, Hagen Smith. You can go on down the line. You wouldn't see those guys throwing on Friday nights. Paul Skeens, you'd see him throwing game 2. So like that tells you game 1 you throw your best starter who you think sets the tone. But then there's the flip side of that coin. It's like 24. Drew Beam was your best starter, but he was in the 2 slot to begin with, and they just left it that way. And heck, Tennessee went with a opener bridge to submarine AJ Causey that year, and there were some wild Friday night games because of it. But when you have the offense that they did, it was kind of like, just leave Drew in his spot. We'll probably score 14 on Friday anyways. I mean, seriously, that was one of those deals where like that's just a different line of thinking because of the circumstances. But generally speaking, you want your 1 going on Friday. So Tegan right now is the 1. I'd argue Blanco, but I'm biased. Tegan is your highest ceiling / pitching the best / draft prospect status. If he starts game 1, I think that's the right move.
Maybe you slide Blanco up if game 2 is so important, and he's been just as good as Tegan. Maybe you switch it up and move Blanco a day. But we'll see what they do this weekend. Again, I with Appenzeller starting, I don't think that necessarily means he'll start this weekend. I think it's more likely they shuffle around the order than anything else. But we'll see what they decide to do. Frank Anderson, I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but Frank Anderson, in his words, told me on the field after Tennessee won the national championship that the way the pitching staff was constructed in 24 is not the recipe for winning national championships.
No, it's not.
with the opener, like you talked about, bridging it to Causey and Mr. TBD on Sunday. And Xander was awesome. Like, it's incredible. Sean Barrows and I were talking about this in the Tennessee press box recently. It's crazy when you look back on that run Xander pitched in to end the year. He won the regional final for Tennessee, won the super regional final for Tennessee, won the game in Omaha to send Tennessee to the College World Series finals, and then pitched the game that Tennessee won the national championship.
Yeah.
Find me a better 4-outing stretch in program history. You can't.
You won't. Old TBD.
And he was dominant in those outings too.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't like the offense was raking in his outings. Like, no. Those were nip and tuck outings where he was coming out 2-1, 1-0, 3-2. Like, he was carving, man. He was upper 80s when he wanted it, but he would live 85, 86 with a little bit of funk to it. And he had all 3 pitches for strikes at any time. So, yeah, just an all-time run. I mean, he could hump up for 90 when he needed it a couple times, but when he got into outings, he was more mid to upper 80s. But yeah, there isn't a better 4 outing stretch, not in Tennessee's history. So the other guy I'm thinking of that would have been similar was the cat from Coastal in 2016 when they won it. He was the submarine guy, and he pitched like every game on their run, and even started a couple. And he was one of those guys who was about to be done with baseball. They threw him like 1,000 pitches in postseason. And then the lefty from Oregon State 2 years later, who after Arkansas dropped the fly ball, Adley's team came back and won that game. The dude who finished that game for Oregon State, who was so good, it was a freshman lefty, and I can't remember his dang name. He started the next game and went like CG, and he threw like 50 pitches the night before. I can't remember. His name. I need to go find that guy. And he ended up having Tommy John, shockingly.
Was he the one?
Hey, got him a natty.
Was he the Oregon State pitcher that got in trouble for some things in his past coming up?
No, that was a different guy. He was a first-round prospect, and that was kind of an A.J. Johnson situation, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know all the details. I don't have very many of the details. Anytime that stuff happens and the timing of it is the way it was, I'm like, come on, bro. But I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah, we'll save that podcast for a different day. What stands out to you about this Kentucky team? For me, it's a series that Tennessee should win this weekend. I know it's on the road. Not at all trying to insinuate it'll be easy. As I've said many times over the last couple of weeks, it's never easy for Tennessee when they go to Kentucky. Even Nick Mingione has obviously had some great teams the last couple of years, but even against his average teams, it's been a battle with Kentucky. These two programs do not like each other. I say it on the Swain event during football season, during basketball season. I say it here on the podcast when they play on baseball. Tennessee and Kentucky hate each other. The states hate each other. The cities hate each other. The universities hate each other. The players hate each other. This is a really good rivalry in all sports. It's a sneaky good rivalry. It's not Tennessee's biggest rival. It's not Kentucky's biggest rival, but I would argue that it's up there. I would say just overall, I'd say Kentucky's probably Tennessee's third biggest rival behind Alabama and Vanderbilt. And I think Kentucky fans would say that Tennessee's its second biggest rival overall in the athletic department behind Louisville. Like these teams genuinely hate each other. So that I bring that up to support my theory as to why these series are always so tight, even when Tennessee's had better teams or both teams have been average or whatever it might be. Like the hate and the rivalry is why this is such a tough series. So I don't at all mean to insinuate that it will be easy when I say Tennessee should win the series this weekend, because I don't think it'll be easy, but I still think that Tennessee should win the series, even going on the road, playing in a quirky ballpark where it seems like the sun never shines, where fly balls go to die. Good luck running one out of Kentucky Proud Park. Now, I've seen a couple of big-time home runs. Was it Kavares Tears who hit one? Not in the 24 series, so I guess it would not have been. No, it's Pete Durkee. It was our guy Pete Durkee. Didn't Durkee hit an absolute bomb in Lexington when y'all went up there one year?
I believe so. We swept them that year in 21. This will be the fourth series Kentucky at Kentucky Proud Ballpark. Tennessee is 2-1 in those series. Do you know what year it was Tennessee lost the series?
Say that again.
Tennessee has only lost one series at Kentucky's new ballpark. Only lost one series to Kentucky at Kentucky since Tony V took over.
Well, y'all swept in 21. You won in 24. Was it 19?
19 We won the series. We may have swept in 19. We won the series.
Which year was it?
22.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I was up there that weekend too.
The only series in SEC play or otherwise until the Super that Tennessee lost was at Kentucky. That was not one of Kentucky's better teams of the past 5 years, and that was arguably the greatest college baseball team, certainly of this decade, but one of the best ever statistically. So ironic, but outside of that, Tennessee's had success when they went up there. I think the rivalry is intriguing because it's traditionally been such a clash of style. And I don't know the guy. I don't know why, but he rubs me the wrong way. Nick Mingione is like number one on my list of coaches in the league that I don't like. If he's a nice guy, I hope one day I realize that and change my mind, but I just can't stand the mannerisms. I can't stand the cheerleading in the dugout that they were kind of known for. And like, I know Tennessee was known for semantics as well, but their antics were very, very questionable on a totally different level than Tennessee's, if you know what I mean. I can't stand how they, I don't know. I guess just how they act. I don't like Kentucky at all. But outside of, I would put them at number 2 as well in terms of rivals in baseball. So I'd go Vandy 1, Kentucky 2 in baseball.
What about overall across the athletic department?
And
it's all
across the
objective
athletic
to each person.
It's odd. I feel like Florida's fallen behind them.
Behind Kentucky?
Behind Kentucky.
Like I totally agree. There's obviously Florida football.
With Vanderbilt being more competitive across the board, they're your in-state school. That makes sense that they're the biggest rival, like they should be.
I think they're number 2, though.
You think they're number 2 to Kentucky? Or Bama's still number 1?
I think Bama's number 1 because of how heavy the football rivalry
is. Yeah, that's football carrying all that weight.
But it's carrying most of the weight. But Tennessee-Alabama's been a big rivalry in basketball during the Nate Oates, Rick Barnes era. Like I feel everything I said about Tennessee and Kentucky and how they hate each other, like the state, the city, the universities, like on down the line, I feel the same way about Tennessee-Alabama.
I think I just have a bad perception of that because Alabama's not even in the top 10 in baseball. In terms of
I think that they are. I simply think they top 10. You're exaggerating
because Vitello and Vaughn were boys. We scrimmaged them in the fall. You don't scrimmage a huge rival in the fall.
That was in 2018 when neither program was worth a dadgum.
I'm just saying. I've never had any chippiness with Bama in a series. Like, it's just not. They're just not there for baseball.
I think
we're looking at overall. I give it to
that way.
It's football, but they're not even in my discussion for baseball.
I think Tennessee, Alabama, regardless of the sport, when it says Tennessee across the chest, Alabama across the chest, I think for most people that hate still exists.
I agree there. But from I don't know, just the vibe in the 2 dugouts from the series, I just never had a rivalry vibe like I did with South Carolina, like I did with Florida at times. Like, obviously Arkansas because of that dynamic.
LSU
because the importance of the baseball games that those 2 teams have played over the last handful of years. Like, and then just always Vandy and Kentucky, you just know, regardless.
Those are 6 that you named. Where's the other 3 or 4 coming from?
We had more juice with Ole Miss than we ever did with Bama. We had more juice with A&M because I don't think Schloss and Vitello were big fans of each
But those
other.
are all like 1-year things. Like the Liam Doyle, Andrew Fisher year was 1 year.
No. This
A&M was 1
this was
year.
before their time, brother. I'm talking the OGs, the late 20 teens, the old heads. That's crazy to say, but yeah, I'm thinking of a 2019 series against.
Okay, but what you just said about Tennessee, Alabama, and they're like not feeling like there's any chippiness between the two dugouts. It didn't feel like there was any chippiness between the two dugouts when they played 2 weeks ago, Tennessee and Ole Miss.
No, that was kind of a sleeper of a series. It's certainly a year-by-year thing.
Yeah.
I
do
at least
agree.
a handful of years type thing. Shoot, I think Georgia and Tennessee have grown a little bit in the last year or so. I don't know if I'd kind of put them in the same level as Bama on baseball rivalries. It's just different. Like, and my perception is so skewed. Like, don't think that I'm sitting here arguing that Bama's not a big rival. I base my opinions based on my experiences and really the head coaches and the demeanor of those teams. It's like, if I don't like the way their head coach acts, I feel like it's more chippy. If I have respect and kind of like their head coach, I feel like it's not. Like, there were some years where I didn't feel like South Carolina was a rival, and then in 2021 we went there and we both needed that series, and that felt like a Tennessee South Carolina football game of the last few years. You know what I mean? So it's different. Like you said, it kind of ebbs and flows. If somebody's really bad, it's not going to be a rival. If somebody's, if it's dominated by one side or the other. But back to Kentucky specifically, it's a little different this year because I think Tennessee matches up with them better than they have in the last few years. And that's why I think it's a series that you should win. I don't love that Kentucky is coming off a series loss at South Carolina, which they they know that was not how that series should have gone for them. And that really kind of screwed up their conference record when they're thinking about, okay, what's it look like for us to solidify a spot and then kind of fight for a seed in Hoover. They put themselves behind the 8 ball. So they're going to try to punch back this week. But Tennessee is in the same boat as far as needing it and where we're at in the season. So it should be a competitive series, but Tennessee overall is better.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's only 2 things statistically that Kentucky does well. They have a high on-base percentage. In conference play, they have the 3rd highest on-base percentage at .375, and then they lead the SEC in conference play in stolen bases. They have 39 stolen bases. Oklahoma is second with 31. Kentucky is 39 for 50 in SEC play, which is 21 games at this point. Those are the 2 things that they do well. Their batting average is 9th, so middle of the road. They're hitting .251. Tennessee is hitting a point better at .252 in SEC play. They don't hit for power. They are tied with Alabama for second fewest home runs. Kentucky and Alabama have both hit 19 home runs in SEC play. Only Missouri, who has hit 17, has hit fewer. So they don't hit for power. Their offense is getting on base. They get on base at a pretty high clip, and then they steal. That's what they do well. Pitching, it has not gone well for them in SEC play. They have the 3rd highest ERA in SEC play. Only LSU and Vanderbilt have worse ERAs. Kentucky's ERA is 6.44 in SEC play. Strikeouts, they are 3rd lowest, 172. Walks, they're towards the top half. They've allowed the 6th most walks, so they don't have a good pitching staff. They don't hit for power, and they have a bad defense as well. Only Alabama and LSU have a worse fielding percentage than Kentucky. Kentucky is tied for 13th with Florida in the league for fielding percentage. So kind of mirror Bama in a lot of ways, but have a worse pitching staff than Alabama. So just looking at it.
Other than that,
yeah.
Other than that, they're really good.
They're not really good though. That's the thing. Is like I hear what you're saying when you say like.
No, I'm joking. It's like
Oh,
if
I
you
know
don't
you
hit
are.
for power, you don't strike anybody out, and you play bad defense. It's like
Right.
other than that, they're a good ball club. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what do you mean other than that? That's what it takes to be good.
Yeah. No, I know you were joking for the record. And like I hear you when you say like, yeah, it kind of worries me that they're coming off a series loss to South Carolina. But it's like I think they lost that series to South Carolina because they were a banged up baseball team and a bad baseball team, not because it was Ole Miss and I don't know that I think Alabama is all that good after watching them this past weekend, but it didn't feel like that series for Kentucky at South Carolina was a blip on the radar. It kind of, to me, it almost spoke more to who they are than just having an off weekend.
Yeah. Well, I just went through it because I was trying to remember. I thought they had some nice series early on, but they're 9-12 in conference. They opened SEC play sweeping Bama. Okay. Since then, they haven't won a series. They lost 2 of 3 to Ole Miss. They lost 2 of 3 to LSU. They lost 2 of 3 to Missouri at home. They lost 2 of 3 to Auburn. And they lost 2 of 3 to Vanderbilt. And they lost 2 of 3 to South Carolina. So they swept once and have not been swept. And that's why they're 9-12. That's a weird season. And all of those, unless I overlooked one, all of those series outside of this last one, they won one of the first 2 games. So they have not been good in rubber matches. Now, they avoided the sweep against South Carolina due to a late rally. They were down 5-4 late in that game and won 9-5. But that's why we say on paper, like Tennessee needs to go win the series, especially when you're talking about, okay, you got Texas coming in next weekend, and then you're going to a very quality Oklahoma club. If you win this series this weekend, and I don't mean to put the cart before the horse. Look, I know they're young. I know they're going to play awful one day at least the rest of the way, and we're going to be like, gosh, can't believe we ever said anything positive about this team. But just hang with them. They're young. They're going to surprise you, good and bad. If you win this series at Kentucky, then you've got 2 opportunities to go win another series, and that would put you dead in the middle of the hosting conversation, Ben. You get to 16-14, and you win 3 of your last 4 series, especially if let's say the Texas series at home is the one you win, and then you go take at least one at Oklahoma. How do you not at least get in the discussion for a host, or at least go to Hoover knowing you've got an opportunity to win a game or 2 and boost your RPI and get into that discussion? I mean, maybe Reese has more than 5 games left in Lindsey Nelson. I think that would be cool. Now, also, just as possible, Tennessee plays really bad one of these weekends. And we're like, okay, just get to 4, get in the tournament, and we'll see what happens. I'm just laying out the options, Ben. Because they've got options, and we know they've used them all.
Yes, they have. Explain to the good folks, because it's that time of year when you're asked a million times, I'm asked a million times, how many wins does Tennessee need to make the NCAA tournament?
4. Okay, it's a weird year
and that's SEC wins.
SEC wins. Yeah, they need 4.
They're at 9.
They're at 10.
They are? I thought they were at 9.
They're at 10.
Oops.
13 getting you in the tournament, I think we're going to find that logic no longer is a definitive, hey, you're going to get in at 13 wins if you have a good RPI, because you have 2 extra teams in the league. And you've got other Power 4 conferences like the ACC and the Big Ten who have added more teams as well. So because of that, because UCLA and Oregon are boosting the RPIs of some of those Big Ten schools, and just because you have more teams in the middle of the pack in the SEC, because you have 2 extra teams in Texas and Oklahoma, there's going to be some weird scenarios where a bubble gets bursted in a conference tournament. 13 wins is just not enough to make you comfortable. Florida got put in last year at 13 wins because I think they swept like 2 of their last 3 series just to get there. Because if you remember, they started like 1-10. And it was kind of a surprise that they got in because they didn't really do what they needed to do in Hoover.
And then they got their teeth kicked in Coastal.
Yeah, generally speaking, 13 should get you in. I just don't think that's going to be the case anymore. Now, it could, but I think it's a toss up with the conference realignment that's gone on, and just the general better competition in some of the other conferences. That's just the way I see it. So we'll see. But if Tennessee gets four wins, that puts you at 14-16. They will not be left out of the tournament if they get 4. You need 6 to be in discussion for a host, which would put you at 16-14. So if you win 5 and say you go win Hoover, then maybe, but 5, you're probably just going to be one of the higher 2 seeds.
I don't remember. Do you remember how many SEC wins they had last year?
I believe it was 16.
Going into Hoover? Because they were not projected the host going into Hoover, and then they reeled off a couple of wins, most notably that Texas win, and that's when it flipped for Tennessee and was like, okay, Tennessee is going to host when they pulled off that win over Texas.
Yeah, because Texas lost that game, essentially banging them from the number 1 overall seed.
Yes.
And they were still the 2, so obviously that's a big-time RPI win for Tennessee,
But my point is Tennessee hosted last year because of what it did in Hoover.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember how many SEC wins they had going into Hoover last year.
Let me tell you.
I've got it right here, actually.
Did they win the 2 games in?
They were 16-14.
Yeah.
So
16-14, but they had lost their last 5. So if this year's squad gets to 16, the recent success will put them in a much better spot in those hosting discussions, because as we saw last year, it's not just the top 16 RPIs or, the handful of teams in SEC, yada, yada. They don't do it that way. Like it is a full look at the resume. And when you get down to that 14 through 16, a lot of times it's like, who's been the best lately? Because the resumes are very similar when you're talking about those last few hosting spots.
What do you make of the last thing we'll touch on here? What do you make of the latest tournament projections that came out on Tuesday? Tennessee back to being projected as a 2 seed in a regional. They were a 2 seed going into the Ole Miss series. They lose the Ole Miss series. Then they were a projected 3 seed in a regional going into the Alabama series. And because of its series win over Alabama, they're now projected as a 2 seed in a regional. Baseball America has them going to North Carolina, the Chapel Hill regional, and D1 Baseball has them going to the Conway regional with Coastal Carolina. What do you make of those 2 projections? And look, they're just projections. Let's not act like it's cemented that Tennessee is going there, but just to have fun. If those were either of the 2 draws, what would you make of those?
I love North Carolina's park. That's where we went in 19. We obviously lost. But that was the first regional we had been to since 2005. So, and we made it to the final. We lost game 1 to Liberty and then turned around and won a couple elimination games to at least get to face North Carolina. They beat us 4-1, I believe, but they're really good on the mound. Their offense seems to have come to life a little bit as of late. But that would be a tough one. And then Coastal, the storyline writes itself with Schnall, obviously coming off a national championship series appearance. They're really good. I think they smacked North Carolina yesterday in their midweek matchup, which was a cool top 10 midweek contest. But I think given the 2, I'd probably prefer Coastal. I think North Carolina's got a lot of horses in the stable, and Coastal can pitch it too, but they've dealt with some injuries. I think Fluky, one of their big time starters, came back last week and threw for the first time since like February, just a couple innings. So it seems like they're kind of getting healthy at the right time. At least him. I think they lost the other guy for the season, or one of their big bullpen arms. But neither one of those would be easy, Ben. There's better regionals Tennessee could be sent to, which is why I'm saying if you're able to get to that 15 mark, you probably get a better regional than if you end up with 14. But sitting at 32 in the RPI right now, I mean, you give a lot to win that Texas series, man, because they're sitting at 3. And ironically, Alabama's at 6 RPI-wise, which is wild to say. Sometimes the RPI doesn't make sense. We can get into that on a different day. I'll walk you through the actual calculation, or you can Google it for yourself and walk and look at it. I'm not saying you specifically, Ben, but when you look at how it's actually calculated, and then you start to think, it's like, how does that really affect my team's RPI as much as it does? The weighting of it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But anyways, going back to last thing I'll say, like Texas at 3, A&M at 4, Auburn at 5, Alabama at 6, Mississippi State at 12, Ole Miss at 14, Florida at 15, Oklahoma at 18, Georgia at 19, Arkansas at 29, and then Tennessee at 32. Like, that's how many SEC teams you're behind in RPI, which is going to be the first data point, not the only one, but the first data point when you're talking about this is their seed. And I'm not just talking about hosts, because they're seeding 1 through 32 this year. So Tennessee, the higher they climb, the better it's going to be for them in terms of that hosting, or where they're sent for a regional. Then you might be talking more like going to Kansas or going to Virginia if they're able to sneak in and host, or Nebraska, who's had a really nice year in Big Ten country. Like, you'd rather go there than North Carolina, with all due respect to those really good ball clubs.
Or Georgia Tech, or Florida State, or Coastal.
I'd rather go to Florida State for sure. They lost Miles Bailey, but they have 2 really good lefty starters. You can keep me the hell away from Georgia Tech, Ben.
Well, I'm saying you'd rather go to Nebraska or some of those other teams you mentioned than those. I'd rather go to Nebraska than Florida State too. Yeah,
for sure. But I'd rather go anywhere than Georgia Tech. I'd rather go to UCLA than Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
I know that.
Oh, I know you. I know you believe that. Even though, there's this thing that happened this year where we watched the two teams play each other.
We ain't seen Tennessee play Georgia Tech, and you're telling me that Tennessee today is the same ball club that UCLA
They're not. I'm just giving you a hard time. Tegan Coons is much better than he was, and he struck 10 of them out the first time they played without his best stuff.
UCLA is hiding behind a cupcake. Now, they are 21-0 in Big Ten. That is impressive. I don't care who you are.
Look, all I know is you better hope they don't win the national championship, because you will not hear the end of it from me.
They've already won too many games. I don't know.
What did the Bruins do to you? Where does this hate stem from? I mean, you give Kevin O'Sullivan more grace than you do UCLA baseball, and UCLA baseball had Jackie Robinson, and this is how you treat their program.
I just think it's because my buddy and I, who like to talk ball and go back and forth, we were just talking preseason. It's like, okay, you look at their schedule, you look at what they had returning. It's like, okay, the path for them to make it to Omaha is going to be pretty nice. But it just feels to me like one of those things where they win a ton of games and then they fall short in a regional or a super. And I've had to be almost stubborn on that take, because all they've done is win 40 games, and heck, they've only lost 4. So,
do you hate UCLA?
At this point, it's almost just out of pride and stubbornness. Like, I have to ride that wave. Otherwise, it's like, I can't turn back now. So I already look dumb. I might as well just stick to it and hope eventually I'm right.
I think you hate UCLA because of Nico.
No, I don't care. He's better off without Nico. So good for him.
Well, we'll see how that goes this year. But I digress.
Now, UCLA ain't better off with him. Poor guy's going to get murdered. I haven't looked at their schedule, but he took a beating last year, and I'd imagine it's not going to be very, very fun for him again this year. So
I just think it's despicable that you talk about that UCLA baseball program in the manner that you do.
I think it's more of a West Coast versus SEC type thing.
Despicable that you would talk about Jackie Robinson's program.
I'm the epitome of SEC bias when it comes to baseball,
especially UCLA.
Especially UCLA. Yeah.
I wonder what Josh Elander would say about that.
But I'm not in football. Look.
What do you think Josh Elander would say about your SEC bias, huh?
He'd probably agree with me. He knows how tough the league is.
At this point, he definitely would agree with you.
8 out of the last 10 natties, by the way, I think, or 9 of the last 10.
Speaking of Josh Elander, I meant to mention this earlier. Win number 30 for Josh Elander last night. He now holds the program's record for most wins for a first-year head coach.
He's taken over the best roster as a first-year head coach in program history, but he also took over the most expectations. So I truly think he's done a good job, and he has built the thing up for them to play their best baseball at the right time. And we'll see if that's true.
Also took over a roster that lost 5 out of its last 6 SEC series last weekend and didn't look very competitive against Arkansas in the Super Regionals.
Well, that lineup only had one guy return to it. Maybe 3 if you count Manny and Levi and Jay. You had one everyday guy in Reese return.
Is that
all 3 starters? Is
that a positive or a negative though?
Yeah, it's just the landscape of the deal nowadays. I mean,
I know. I'm more so just the
old portal season.
I'm nitpicking on purpose to be annoying. The other fun stat from last night, Tennessee baseball, as I mentioned, win 30 for Josh Elander also means it's win 30 for Tennessee baseball on the season. Tennessee has now won 30 games for 7 consecutive seasons. Tennessee won 30 games 9 times in the 17 years prior to Tony and Josh and twice in the prior 10 years. So 30 wins in a season, not anything to celebrate too much, obviously, but 40 would be for sure. But even the 30 games, that wasn't something Tennessee was doing a whole lot before Tony Vitello and Josh Elander. So not at all trying to celebrate 30 wins in a season, but more so just putting in context where the program is now compared to where it was prior.
Yeah. It's easy to forget. And I mean, how many teams before Tony Vitello would kill to be 10-11 going into the last 3 weeks of conference play? I mean, double-digit wins was like, hey, if we sweep the last 2 series, we might get to 10. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you've got 2 midweek games left. So the way they've handled those, no reason to believe they would lose either one. They could, but at bare minimum, you'll at least get 31, and then you've got 9 conference games left. So if you get the 4 that you need for NCAA postseason, then you know you're going to have at least 1 in Hoover and 2 in a regional, sitting at 35. So let's say you win 1 in Hoover, that gets you to 36, and then you'd basically need to make it to a super to have a chance to get to 40. Now, if you win both of your midweeks and 5 of the 9 conference games remaining, then you're at 37. Then you go win 2 in Hoover, maybe 1 in Hoover. Then you need 1 or 2 in a regional to get to that 40 mark. Like 40 wins is real good baseball season. When was the last time Tennessee did not win 40 games? I believe it would have been 2018, unless the 23 squad didn't get to 40, but I thought they did.
2020.
Okay. The last completed season.
I
think we're about to do that too.
2018, Tony's first year.
Yeah. 18. So 2019 got 40 on the nose. 2021, I believe it was 50
on the nose. 57, 44, 60, 46. 60 wins is crazy.
That is crazy. I know they won the SEC tournament and the national championship, but 60 wins is nuts.
Still crazy. Still absolutely.
And they lost the game to Evansville Isn't that wild?
Very wild. And then Xander Seacrest did Xander Seacrest things. I'll predict that they go into they'll arrive in Hoover with 36 wins. They win both of their midweeks. They win 2 of 3 this weekend. They win 1 against Texas, 1 at Oklahoma. I say they arrive in Hoover with 36
That's
wins.
the most. If we had to put odds on it, that would be the most likely win total they enter Hoover with. I think second most likely would be.
I'd say 37 is most likely. They take 2 at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think 37 would be the second most. And then 38 and 34 would both be pretty unlikely, about the same odds both way. One good, one bad. But same probability percentage, if you will.
Big weekend for Tennessee and Lexington coming up. They need to build off of the momentum that they have created and sustain that momentum that they have created. I will be in Lexington on Saturday and Sunday for game 2 and game 3. Going to head up Saturday morning after we get a little wee ball action in with my oldest first thing Saturday morning, and then I'll be headed north to Lexington for the final 2 games of the series. Will and I will be back since I'm traveling back Sunday evening. We'll be back at some point on Monday with a podcast. We'll try to hammer one out earlier in the day. That way we're not dropping it at midnight before Tuesday. But we will be back at some point on Monday, and certainly appreciate everybody listening. And I appreciate you, my friend Will Heflin.
Same to you, brother, as always.
For Sir William, I'm Benjamin. This has been another edition of the Diamond Vols Podcast on GoVols247.com.